reason these other nations are not prepared to preempt the U.S.'s prerogative. Now, understand, there are very complex relationships that exist between the United States and all of the major nations of the world. We've got business ties, we've got foreign aid ties, and also we have substantial economic ties, and arms support as well. And so, it's not like spitting in the U.S. face doesn't have some consequences. But as you can see, of late, it is becoming increasingly common for other nations to essentially slap the U.S. across the face. China did it when it didn't really do anything to intervene on the Snowden affair as he went through Hong Kong. Russia, of course, it allowed him into the country. A bunch of South American nations offered him asylum. And there are other things going on that clearly show. Nations talk. The BRICS nations, which is a group of nations including Russia and China and South Africa and some others, Iran, are actively moving to find alternative payments of method for major trade issues without using the dollar. This is going to undermine the dollar ultimately and could lead losing our reserve currency, which could cause an inflationary explosion in the United States, the likes of which you've never seen. So, the idea that everybody's going to defer to us is eroding, and so don't be surprised if another nation finally says, look, we know there's an ET presence. Our chase planes have been, trying to catch these things for 30, 40 years. And we have evidence, and one of those heads of state is going to come forward and announce it. The moment that happens, other nations will follow quickly. Cat's out of the bag. And the only question is the U.S. going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7? So it's not like it's in a corner. It's just, the cat's out of the bag, and you got to, you can say nothing, but you're going to look stupid. So there's no choice. So it's either going to be us, and if we're not first, there's going to be an impact on the United States' how would you say, global prestige. We're going to look like follower, not leader, and it's going to be an embarrassment. And it's going to be an embarrassment not to the country, but obviously to the president and to the president's party. On the other hand, the nation, the executive, head of state, and the party that makes the first announcement is going to be elevated profoundly in global esteem, having announced to the world the most important piece of information ever announced. So that's a simple answer to your question.
Do you think
my job? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible when Bill Clinton came out in front of the White House lawn and maybe getting his feet wet, testing the waters, when he talking about the rock and the possible extraterrestrial life existence from the Mars rock? And, it was quite interesting. Do you think the conspiracy theorists behind the people in power were kind of gulping at that time, thinking he's going to let the cat out of the bag? We know through certain information from your citizen here that Bill Clinton really wanted to know about the phenomenon.
That very complicated situation there. The 1997 announcement of the Mars rock, I think, was a trial balloon put up by NASA. I don't know if Clinton had anything to do with that. But understand that announcement came shortly after the end of the Rockefeller Initiative that went on from 93 to 96. And the Clintons, of course, have remained completely silent about all of this because Hillary wanted to run for president, and she still does. And so they view the ET issue, of course, as a major liability and have gone out of their way to never say anything about the Rockefeller Initiative, even though I put it out there over and over and over and over again, as has Grant Cameron. The press just saying, hey, what, they'll ask Hillary, why she changed her hair or any number of ridiculous questions, but they won't ask her about this. One day that's going to change. But
don't you think if Hillary said in her campaign, I have insight to possible free energy from reverse engineered alien technology, that might even help her votes? Everybody's looking for, the answer to our problems right now.
Well, if Hillary had asked me her advice on that, I would say absolutely do that. I believe that such a statement, backed up by what they learned during the Rockefeller Initiative and his interactions with that process, and her interactions, because she was involved in the Rockefeller Initiative to release all the files. would just explode. And the interest would just go through the roof, and she'd have people making jokes and saying stupid things. But gee, I mean, you turn on the news every day, and what do you got? You got a bunch of politicians and political pundits making jokes and saying stupid things. So I mean, nothing will have changed. But she will have an enormous amount of support. But unfortunately, I'm sure all her internal advisors would say this would be the end of your political career, because they're all tied to the truth embargo. They're fully institutionalized. They don't get it. So you don't risk. You got a lock on the presidency. You don't risk that by doing something dramatic and profound. Well, let me tell you something. The reason the United States is going into the toilet is because for the last 40 years we are overrun with politicians that don't want to risk their political futures or their jobs by doing anything dramatic and profound. And the few that do are ostracized. So we're becoming a kind of a dead country. We're shrinking up. We're shriveling in a way politically. And there's nothing there. But, I'm not her advisor. But yeah, it would have a significant effect.
Just maybe make this more known. I mean, maybe organize some huge demonstrations because they don't have the resources to ridicule it. Or
you can't organize. Do you know how much it costs to organize a huge demonstration? Believe me, it's a huge amount of money. We don't need them. Let me tell you what we are going to do. Look, the congressional hearing campaign, as I said, will launch with the sets of the citizen hearing on disclosure sent to all the members of Congress, letters from constituents asking that they meet with me to discuss hearings. Then I'll start approaching the members directly. But shortly after I start approaching the members, right about that time, and this is weeks in the future, but not too far into the future, we will launch Disclosure Petition 6 on the White House website. I fully expect we, the people, to be back up and running at that point. Now, your listeners can see that by going to disclosurepetition.org, and they will see exactly what this petition is going to look like when it gets put up. It's not up now, right? And I will be going on radio and talking about this petition weeks ahead of time, so people will have some time to spread the word so we can get off to a fast start and maximize the signatures, because you only have 30 days to gather signatures. But the petition will be up for those 30 days at minimum. And so the goal here, it will have that petition up on the White House website while I'm meeting with members of Congress over that 30-day period, and I'll be pointing to it, right? I'll be saying, hey, let's go on your computer, take a look. Right, there it is. We have to get 100,000 signatures to get a response, but that's secondary to the fact that it's going to be up there. So we're going to launch that petition, and I'll be on your show to talk about it. You can count on that. But you go to disclosurepetition.org, you can read this. Now, if you then click on Disclosure Petition 1, you can go see the original one, and then you can click on to the White House response, except it's not up now. That portion of the site is closed. So we're going to have a petition in play. We're going to have letters coming into the House and Senate. There's going to be 5,300 DVD discs on the Hill filled with testimony from the citizen hearing and these witnesses, as well as other things.
Yeah, I find that strategy quite interesting. You're going to get these DVDs printed up, put them in jewel cases, and get them in the hands right there in Washington, and basically they're going to be kind of forced to put it in their laptops and take a look at this evidence and testimony. Quite brilliant.
I think we've sent stuff out. I mean, we've distributed certain DVDs of documentaries to the Hill, and I'm sure they've been seen, but nothing like this. This is compelling because when they pop that DVD in, what they're going to see is former members of Congress. Most of those staffers know who they are. I mean, two of them, Lynn Woolsey and Roscoe Bartlett, just retired from the Congress in January of this year after 20 years. And so they'll see former members of Congress that they know, in many cases personally, sitting and seriously listening and hearing and asking questions to witnesses like Robert Salas and Bruce Spencer-Mocker. These are Air Force captains testifying firsthand to the shutdown of our nuclear missiles by saucers that come down, craft that come down and hung over the base.
You know, we actually had Salas on a couple weeks ago and reiterated that thing, and it seems very clear that these things are very worried about our technology because our species as a whole is very messed up. I mean, we discover atomic energy, and the first thing we do is go kill each other. So But nonetheless, what other way? I mean, it seems like this small group of these wealthy people, the petrodollars, as Stephen Greer calls it, are calling these damn shots, and we have these technologies that can really change it all, as you've shown from all your witnesses that you presented to the citizen hearing. I've actually had some researchers that have told Third Phase of the Moon off the record that they believe that the Boston bombing was a false flag that was actually intended to derail the attention from the citizen hearing. What do you think about that?
I can with almost complete and total certainty say no, that is not what happened. That was a bombing set off by a couple of very disturbed kids who bought into an ideology, and it killed a bunch of people, and it had nothing to do with the citizen hearing. It did hurt us, there's no question. Just like the 9/11 events of September 11th, 2001, wiped out most of the progress that we were making, including the aftermath of Greer's May 9th, 2001 press conference. Do I think that 9/11 was orchestrated to do that? Absolutely not. Look, the world is happening every day, and anytime you do something, you are, at the mercy of events. There's a lot happening at any given moment, and a lot of it is completely unconnected, and that's just the way it goes. That's why you keep trying, right? So, no. There's no connection other than the impact that it had, which was significant.
Just, again, bad timing. Jesse Ventura says the Democrat and Republican parties are just basically gangs fighting each other and keeping the small guy out. And he's maybe thinking about running for president if he's allowed in the debates, and he has a kind of a different way and approach about it. Do you think maybe, I don't think our president now is going to come out and say, we're not alone in the universe and we've been visited by extraterrestrials, but, the possibility Jesse might now, that's a little bit more likely in my opinion.
Well, one, I intend to get the president to say that next year. Two, I love Jesse. He's a great guy. We've tried to get directly with him on a number of occasions. I know his son, a really great kid, and he's involved in a cool show called Buzzsaw. Jesse can run. His chances of winning are 1 in 50,000. Mike Gravel can tell you all kinds of stories of what it's like to be a third-party candidate. The system is rigged for the two parties. We know that. So we're not going to wait for Jesse Jesse Ventura or any third-party candidate to get in it. No, we're going to get the current president to do it.
Ross Perot did quite well. I think he's up about 70-80% at one time.
Who?
He's a third party. He's a billionaire, so that doesn't hurt. But like I said, if somebody with a candidate says that, we're going to go after free energy, we're going to go into Area 51, and we're going to disclose the technology that's going to help out the energy thing that the government has, hey, I think that's a good ticket to run on.
He was talking about Ross Perot.
It's not. We're going to be riding hard long before that. But I'll say this: if anybody runs in the 2014 congressional races that wants to address these issues, I hope they do. PRG's Political Action Committee XPAC, I'm going to be promoting that again soon. If it's able to raise any money, we'll distribute some of that money to any candidate in any of the federal elections in 2014 who are prepared to call for hearings. We'll provide a donation to them. But that's a whole other part of these programs, initiatives that are coming out later, and we'll be doing that. But yeah, if a presidential candidate in 2016 were to bring those things, they get a lot of attention. But believe me, I'm not going to wait till 2016. Disclosure of the ET presence is already 22 years overdue, and 6 years since the opening move in all this, the opening moments, which is, of course, the events of early 1947. And it's time to get on. We don't have the luxury, I think, as a civilization of just putting this off and off and off. There are compelling reasons why disclosure needs to happen immediately. And it can happen immediately. All it takes is for the President of the United States to have one of his key people meet with a representative of the military intelligence complex and work out the details of what each other needs to do a disclosure event proper way, come to a nice understanding, and then do it. It's done. Now, I don't think Putin needs to do that. I don't think Putin has to have a meeting with his military intelligence complex. He'll just do it if he wants to do it. And if they don't like it, he'll fire them all. But that's all it's going to take. It's not that difficult. Disclosure is inevitable. The only question is how soon will it be? And I'm thinking sooner than later. And so I want people thinking now.
Third phase of moon.